Hi there, my name is Mr. Lewis. This is a video all about our reading curriculum for current parents of the school or prospective parents. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't do events where we get parents in school. So this is the next best thing we can do, is to do a video for you. This one's all about reading, and we make no apologies when we say reading is a huge, huge part of school life at Upton St Leonards. We're very, very fortunate. We've got a fantastic reading subject leader in Mrs. Wood, who's done a lot of work over recent years. And we've done a lot of work as a school to try and build up reading. So it's very, very prominent throughout our school. Just to give you a bit of information about the school, we are a large school. We are not a small little village school. We're 418 on roll, and we have quite a wide catchment area. So we do take children from outside of the village. And our curriculum revolves around these four core values, which are love, respect, perseverance, and truthfulness. And these come right through our reading curriculum. And I'll explain a little bit about what I mean by that in a moment. We started off on a journey a couple of years ago where we aimed to have reading teachers to create a reading school. And this came from Mrs. Wood's work with the Cheltenham Literature Festival, where we looked if we can make teachers who read, or create teachers who read, we can then create children who want to read. And reading is enormous. So what do we aim to achieve is a very, very simple aim in words, not so easy to achieve, but very simple to put down. We want to increase pupils' prospects by ensuring that all children are fluent, enthusiastic readers, and we're determined to ensure that all our children can speak, read, and write fluently, because there is so much research that tells you if a child can read and speak well, they are likely to go on to do well in school and therefore likely to go on to do well in later life. So we look to achieve that in two ways at school here at Upton. The first is that we teach phonics daily, a high quality phonics lesson from the moment they come into school in reception up until the end of year 2. And if children need to carry on doing phonics into year 3, year 4, they do. And then we aim, once the phonics has been mastered, that children can develop a love of reading and want to read for pleasure. Obviously, they can't read independently until they have the ability to decode words, which is where phonics is so important for us. So our reading curriculum has gone through quite a change in the last 18 or so months. We have class novels that are now read in class every day from year 1 upwards. That might seem quite a difficult task for year 1. You might think, oh, they're quite young to be doing class novels. But we want to start building up that stamina. And we want them to start understanding that reading is not something you achieve in a few minutes. Sometimes it takes a number of days or weeks to finish a good book. And we're just trying to get those wheels already in motion, that reading stamina is a big part of reading. All of the novels that we read and all the authors who write those novels have been carefully chosen. There are links within the reading curriculum. There are links between the reading curriculum and our wider curriculum, but every book has its place. And I'll show you in a moment a slide which talks through all the books. Every book has its place, and there's a reason why it's been chosen. All children have their own copy of a book to follow along with. So we try and encourage parents to help out with this, where if they can buy the book to do that, but if not, we have copies of the book in class. It's really important that children can see what they're reading. Listening to someone read is one thing, but to listen and be able to follow along is far, far better. We use what's called a windows, mirrors, and doors approach. And so what this means is that we want children to read books where they can see themselves, such as a mirror. And we also want them to read books where they get taken into different worlds and different experiences. Children have only got one experience, their own life. Reading gives you that ability to go into a different world, and they can get really into a character, and they can develop so many skills such as empathy by just reading books. So that mirrors, windows, and doors approach is a really, really key part to our reading curriculum. And we read work, both fictional and non-fictional work. Children need to see characters that are like them. They also need to see characters that are different to them. So reading provides us with that vehicle to take children into a different world. So the majority of our children come from Gloucester, have been brought up in Gloucestershire, and are of white British backgrounds. We therefore read books where we have characters of that background, but we also read books where children are coming from different characters and different cultures, and that's important. So children start to understand different ways of living. As well as reading novels, we also then read a variety of extracts, short texts, videos, songs, and other material during our reading lessons. So every child has a 30-minute reading lesson every day. And that can be a variety of things. The class novel is sometimes read in the reading lesson. It's also read outside of the reading lesson. So this is the slide where the books show what we read. So these are the 36 books that we read as a class novel, starting down in year 1, where we start with Pumpkin Soup, moving all the way through to year 6, where the last book they'll read is a book called The Boy in the Tower. Now, the colours here link to the themes that run through the school. So, for example, the sort of light yellow, creamish colour, they are books for empathy. And I think they've become really, really important books within our curriculum, because they are books which allow children to develop empathy for other ways of life and other characters. So, for example, in year 6, they read a book called Can You See Me Now by Libby Scott. That follows a character who has autism. And so for some of our children, they won't know what it's like to have autism. They won't have anybody in their family or wider friend network who has autism. And so this gives children that ability to understand what it's like for children who have autism. We've got a book in year 4 called The Boy at the Back of the Class, which is a lovely book by Angelique Rife. And that's about a refugee and a boy who comes across this country and really struggles to fit into class and is quite often left alone. And so again, gives that children the idea, what's it like to be a refugee? It's a word they might have heard on the news, but they'll have no understanding of what it likes to be a refugee, or the vast majority of our children will have no understanding. So it's a really nice book, again, to develop that empathy as to what it's like to be a refugee. We've got books there for cultural enrichment. So I think that's the sort of pinky colour. And these are books set in different parts of the world. So we've got books in year 4, they read The Girl Who Sold an Elephant, which is set in Sri Lanka. We've got The Journey to Joburg, which is set in South Africa. And we've got books called Too Small Tola, which is set in Africa as well. And our children will have very little understanding, sometimes even little knowledge of these countries. So it just gives them that ability to see a different way of life and a completely different culture to what it would be like to be a child in Gloucester. And so again, what we're trying to do is develop children to be far more well-rounded individuals. So they've got that sort of understanding of different ways of life, and reading helps us to do that. We've also then got our classic books. They're the ones in blue, books that have stood the test of time and were read years and years ago and will still be read in a number of years' time, because they have stood the test. They are fantastic books which we want our children to read. The Iron Man, for example, in year 3 is a brilliant book. And children always love that book. And I've taught for a number of years in year 6, and children have always loved Holes. It's a fantastic book, which I'm sure even in 15, 20 years' time, we'll still be reading. So we have those. And we've also then got the more modern books, and they're the ones in green. These are our new authors, maybe authors who 5, 10 years ago we didn't know about, because there's so much, so many new authors out there now. You couldn't have a better time, I don't think, to be a child at the moment in terms of children's literature. There is so much out there. And Mrs. Wood is brilliant at putting books into different classrooms, and so are all our teachers. If you came into any of our classrooms now, you'll see a reading corner, quite often with a lovely sofa or nice seating area. And the quality of books on those displays will be far beyond what we've had in recent times. And our teachers are absolutely fantastic at reading children's books themselves in their own time. So they know books and they can recommend books to all different types of children, because I refuse to believe that there is a child that doesn't enjoy reading. There's just a child that hasn't yet found the book right for them. And when we find that right book for them, we will get them hopefully being long-term readers. If you want to know any more information about these books, all of that information can be get from the class teacher. Some of it's on our website in the reading pages, but you'll find more by speaking to the class teacher if you'd like a little bit more. We do thoroughly recommend that children read these books at home as well. And so there's no issue with reading in advance. So, for example, the first book we read in year 5 is Brightstorm. children will not be in any way hampered if they've already read that book. In fact, it would be brilliant because they'll already have a level of understanding before starting the book. Because when we read the book, as well as reading, we're looking for the comprehension side of it and the understanding. So if children have already read it and can be fluent in terms of reading, that will give them an enormous help when it comes to the lessons in class. There's a few pictures here just to try and show you some of the things we do at Upton St Leonards to push that love of reading. So it comes back to our vision again there of love of learning. On the left, we've got Vashti Hardy. Vashti came and opened our school library. She's become a real firm favourite as an author with us at school. We've made some really nice links with Vashti, and she's done some Zoom links, and she's come in school with us, which is brilliant. Lots of pictures you can see children meeting real authors. Sometimes we find children in primary school think authors are these sort of superhero people that don't exist, and they're not. They're real people, and just getting to meet them and see them and sign the book, because we'd love to see some of our children go on to be authors, and just meeting them can show them they are real people. That is a real aim for them, that one day they could be an author. You'll see a picture at the bottom of a vending machine. And this has been an amazing addition to our school over the last 6 months. We installed this, I think it was March 2021, and the difference it's made for reading is brilliant, because what we now do is we spend all our house points get turned into reading prizes. That might be being a story read to them. It might mean having hot chocolate and a story, or it might mean purchasing a golden coin. And a golden coin allows you to go and get a book from the reading machine. And the look on a child's face when they get that golden coin and see that book drop out of the vending machine is a brilliant, brilliant sight. So we're really trying to push this idea that reading in itself is a reward. Children don't need prizes. Reading and taking a good book home for the weekend to go and read to their parents or their families or their carers, that in itself is a brilliant achievement and a lovely reward. So we thank you as well for current parents who have helped us enormously in stocking that machine. We've got 418 children. The vending machine runs out very quickly, so we have to keep going with stocks of books. So thank you very much to anybody who has donated books. And if you've got books at home which are in good condition and relevant to 4 to 11 age range, please think about donating books to us. We will gladly accept them. There's a picture on the bottom right as well. This is Mrs. Wood, who set up a reading parents group. So we have our parents come in once a term and they discuss a book. And so we're just trying to see if children see us read as teachers, as parents, as adults, we're the role models. If they see us read and engage in reading, you will see them read. So one of the biggest bits of advice I could pass on to parents is if you're reading at home regularly yourself and children see that, you're your child's biggest role model, they will copy that behavior. And so if we want to see children reading, we have to read ourselves. So the main things I'd like you to take away from our reading curriculum, it is deliberately ambitious. So we pick books which are probably pitched slightly higher than what a child could read by themselves. And that's because we're there to support them and help them read. So we wouldn't expect a child to read a book independently. That's too hard for them because they're not going to get the enjoyment if they're struggling to read. But when they're reading with us in a lesson, we pitch it just beyond them to stretch them. Our curriculum is spiral based. As you saw from those colours, we make links year on year. So we're trying to help children know more and remember more. We also want children to develop that empathy and understanding of the world and how different people around our globe live. We expect children to remember what they've learned. So if you hopefully very soon we'll get you the chance to come in and see our lessons in action, and you'll see we have changed our lesson design. So we want children knowing more, putting more information into their long-term memory. And I've done a video on our curriculum, which is on our website, which talks a little bit more about how we achieve that. This next point, we read books with very, very challenging plots. We have some challenging topics and we hit them head on, and we don't apologize for that. So in year 6, we read books which cover racism in America, which over the last couple of years has become a very, very contentious topic. We look at refugees in year 4. That's very regularly in the news at the moment, with the stories of refugees and migrants coming across into our country. We read books in year 2 from different continents, and throughout all the other year groups as well, we are reading stories with difficult topics. We read books where children have gone through traumatic life experiences. They may have lost parents, they may have lost grandparents. We read books where families are going through enormous struggles, both physical and mental. And we don't shy away from these difficult conversations. So we want children to grow up with that vision of loving one another and being accepting of difference. That is a key driver behind our curriculum. We don't think we'd be doing children justice if we decided to skip over some of those difficult conversations, especially higher up the school as children are more mature. All these conversations will be age appropriate. So we'll never cover something which children are not ready to cover. But these conversations do hit topics head on, and therefore children do sometimes find it quite difficult, but every child's unique and we should celebrate that. Our school itself has a wide variety of children, wide variety of cultures, and through the stories we read, we aim to enhance that even more. But I think it's important you as parents know that we do hit these challenging plots and we tackle them head on. We don't try and avoid it. We don't avoid the difficult conversations, because children need to learn that other children in the world are going through very different experiences to them. If you've got any questions about our reading, please take a closer look at our website on the reading pages, or speak to your child's class teacher. Or speak to Mrs. Wood, who's our reading lead. She teaches in year 2, or please come and speak to me as a teaching and learning lead. We'll be more than happy to help you with anything reading. But if I could leave you with one piece of advice as a parent, please regularly read to your children and hear your children read. It is the single biggest difference you can make to the academic progress of your children. Okay, thank you very, very much for listening. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us.